the pain like.
Hey guys, dearyoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some of my predictions for K-pop in 2024. Of course, it goes without saying, but I do want to just clarify that I have absolutely no influence in or on the K-pop industry, so I have no idea if any of these are actually going to happen. This video is all hypothetical and just for a bit of fun, so please feel free to share your 2024 predictions with me in the comments. Okay, let's get started. First up, I think at some point in 2024, we may finally see that Super M comeback that was promised for 2023 at the end of 2022. To be honest, I'm not fully sure what the exact reason was for the delay here. My only thinking is that perhaps it got put on the back burner because things got a little bit messy with SM Entertainment themselves with the handing over of ownerships this year and their battle with Hybe earlier on, if anyone remembers that. From the teasers released, which showed different lights almost as if to represent which members from each group would be in Super M, it kind of made it seem like they were pretty much ready to go, or at least something was in the works. But then, if I'm not mistaken, EXO's Kai ended up having to enlist earlier than expected, so I don't know if he was meant to be in the next lineup of Super M like he was in the first, but perhaps that threw a spanner in the works with regards to the lineup. I don't really know. Either way, I think if we don't see anything from SM's female supergroup Got the Beat next year, then perhaps we'll finally get the Super M comeback instead, if they decide what they're doing with the lineup now Kai is unavailable. My next 2024 prediction is that Baby Monster will continue on the same trajectory of Blackpink, except this time with more criticism. By this, I mean that I'm expecting them to potentially get a comeback in 2024, but it will not be until later in the year, so by the time it does come around, it's more like 1 year since their debut, not like half a year. I think this is because YG's formula of having Blackpink come back very rarely seemed to work for them. Although yes, some fans did complain and were not happy with the music when they did come back, things did still kind of just tick over regardless with little issue, because they had built up such a strong reputation and fan base from a solid few early years. So regardless if people weren't happy with the quality of the music, there was still going to be a largely happy crowd. Whereas for Baby Monster, people haven't been the most happy with their music from the get-go, with many people arguing that their debut felt lackluster. Therefore, I think YG are going to have a much harder time trying to get away with their infrequent comebacks method of marketing, because a large majority are going to be unhappy with whatever the girls do when they do make their return because they weren't happy with the debut either. I'm not sure if this means they will ultimately change their method. I personally don't think they will, but it will at least create a bit of a headache for them. Next up, I'm predicting that 17 will announce a large world tour and it will finally include some European dates. I will admit this is partially wishful thinking, as I am very much aware that the clock is ticking and we are quickly running out of time before their dreaded enlistment era starts to begin, and part of me thinks surely Pledis/Hybe are going to want to earn as much money as possible from one of their largest active groups while they can. 17 was supposed to do a world tour that included Europe back in 2020, but it got cancelled due to COVID, and since their popularity has only skyrocketed. So now this feels like less of a wish and more of a potential thing that could actually happen. When you hear the way the members have been speaking at their recent shows in Asia about how they will be touring again next year, it wouldn't be crazy to think that they could spread that tour even further. And by that, I am hoping not just like the States, but further afield. Also, especially after they had that whole concept of 17 being everywhere and global this year when promoting God of Music, where they had like the 17 adverts pop up all around Europe. They really had us in the first half thinking that was going to be a world tour. Not gonna lie, I felt a little bit like a fool. But I also must admit, I am apprehensive to wish for this world tour because of how insanely hectic their 2023 has been. I would really love for them to get some form of rest, even just like a month, maybe two's break. But when you combine their work ethic with the way K-pop companies also function, I actually think my prediction of them getting a world tour is more likely than them getting a rest. Let's move on to my next prediction. I think another Twice member will receive a solo debut. I will never be able to prove this, but there's a part of me that is convinced that one of the terms that came up in negotiations when Twice agreed to re-sign their contracts was that they would be able to do more additional activities rather than just full group comebacks, which seemed to be one of the only things we saw from them for quite a while. So now 2 members have had official solo debuts, we've had the sub-unit consisting of the Japanese members, etc. I don't know, it just seems quite common that JYP Entertainment don't let their artists branch out more until nearer the end of their contract or when they finally decide to re-sign. But either way, in terms of who I think may potentially get the solo, Jihyo and Nayeon have already had theirs, of course, so I could definitely see perhaps Jonghyun having a solo next. It's been a while since her hiatus now, and she's been back for quite a bit, so perhaps if she feels ready, it would be a really nice opportunity for her to showcase her individuality, or maybe even Jui for the same reason of getting the chance to showcase more of what her style could be. And I'm not sure if it would be any of the Miss Samo girls who did the Japanese subunit, but if it was, I could definitely maybe see Momo getting a solo debut, because she absolutely has that presence to slay a solo stage. Next prediction, I think BTS's Jin will release a full album later in the year. With him being the first BTS member to enlist not too long after the announcement of their plans to begin service, he is probably one of the members who kind of got to produce the least amount of content before he went, whereas other members such as Suga got to do a tour and some members got to do albums. In 2024, we start to see some of the BTS members return, with Jin coming back first in June, so I think he will now just do what the other members did while he was enlisting earlier, just in reverse, if that makes sense. So rather than releasing an album then enlisting, I think he will complete his service and then come back with a full album sometime later in the year. I'm not too sure on what he will choose for the style and concept, but I do know it will definitely be something that highlights his vocal tones. I think the variety of his tone is quite underappreciated because we didn't get to see a lot of it in BTS, so it'd be nice to see more of his variety, and it will serve as a sort of treat to fans so it doesn't feel like we've been without the group for such a long time. Which, by the way, I think the whole group have done really well by giving us some sort of content to hold us over in between these gaps and hiatus. You can tell there was definitely some meticulous planning there between Big Hit and Hybe and the members, so kudos to them. Anyways, getting off topic, sorry. My next 2024 opinion is that Wekimeki will make one final comeback before inevitably disbanding anyway. I'm so sorry if you're a fan of them. If it helps at all, I am too, and this one really hurts me to say, but I think at the same time a lot of us have been preparing ourselves for what's to come anyway for quite some time now. Wekimeki's 7-year anniversary is coming up in August, but of course with that means we're entering the dreaded 7-year curse, where groups disband at the end of their 7-year contract, and due to the absolute lack of music that their company has allowed them to release, I unfortunately don't think they'll be breaking the 7-year curse, and we'll have to say goodbye. But I will be surprised if we don't see anything of them between now and then. Perhaps I'm just delusional, or again wishful thinking, but I think we may perhaps get at least one final comeback from them. I'm not sure if their label will treat this as like a last chance saloon, and the success of this comeback will determine their future, or if it's just more of like a goodbye comeback where we get to reminisce and accept it's the end. Unfortunately, I'm afraid the latter seems a lot more likely. Next opinion I have may sound vague, so don't laugh at me. I'm not sure how to word exactly what I want to say, but I need to include this one. EXO's Lay will get involved with something EXO related. Okay, hear me out. I haven't forgotten that Lay is still a member of EXO, and neither has he. It's clear to see that he still loves his group, or at least thinks about them often. He still sometimes accidentally introduces himself as EXO's Lay when doing solo stuff, and he gets involved with EXO dance challenges, but understandably in the last few years it has been difficult for him to get involved with EXO group activities when he has so many commitments with his work in China. So I have no idea exactly how he will quote unquote return to EXO, but I'm speaking it into existence now because I need this. I know we all laughed at how they CGI edited him into the Don't Fight the Feeling music video. Honestly, I would not be mad if they did that in 2024 again, because 1, we would see Lay back with his team again, and 2, it would mean another EXO comeback. I'm not complaining, I don't think you are either. I'll take it, thank you. Some Lay fans may be able to fill me in better, but I'm personally not sure how his 2024 schedule is currently looking or what he is planning to do. But if he did manage to find a bit of time to get involved with an EXO comeback, whether it be production or the finished product, it would absolutely make my year. My next prediction for 2024 is that Mamamoo will release some sort of special album for their 10th anniversary. I think the situation with Mamamoo is another one that has kind of been up in the air recently due to them being under different labels now, and Solar and Moonbill's activities as Mamamoo Plus kind of being the only group content we're getting. But kind of like I said for Lay, it is clear to see the bond that this group has as a four. And yes, they can all go and do their own things, but when they come back together, it just makes sense and it works so well. So with 2024 being the group's 10-year anniversary, I do think that they will all come back together in some sort of celebration, perhaps with a special album that has some re-recorded versions of their older songs, perhaps a few new songs, or at least maybe like one super sentimental like anniversary song, if that makes sense. I didn't mention this before, but it would also have been lovely to see a concert go along with this album so they could celebrate their anniversary with fans, but I'm not 100% sure how they would be strapped for time. If they only did like 1 or 2 shows in Korea, this is more likely and it could be doable. And last but not least, I wanted to end with a more generic one that isn't about anybody in particular, but I think the term 5th gen will become a lot more common, and we will therefore be submerged into the 5th generation of K-pop regardless of if we are ready for it. I think a lot of us, myself included, I will admit, have been trying to kind of put off the idea of entering the 5th generation of K-pop as much as possible, just because I don't feel quite ready yet. It doesn't feel that long ago that we had to face moving from 3rd gen to 4th, but when you actually think about it, it has been a long time now. Time is just flying by so quickly we don't even realize. It's likely you'll never be 100% ready for any sort of change anyways when it comes around, regardless of when it is. So I think it's only natural that we'll begin to see like the cut-off of groups who debut from 2024 onwards kind of being seen as like the next generation of K-pop. Just to add another layer to this if we can, perhaps we may start to see more companies themselves actually pushing the idea of us now being in the 5th gen of K-pop, more so than just fans, to allocate more room for their artists. I'm not sure if you'd agree, but a lot of the 4th gen of K-pop has become quite a saturated market. There's a heck of a lot of groups now, and it's a difficult market to slot yourself into. Whereas if we're now officially declaring a fresh start and being in the next generation, well, that just opens up a whole lot of extra room to try and find your place in, especially early on while there'll still be a lot of space and not that many groups classified as 5th gen yet, if that makes sense. Am I onto something here? Let me know. Okay guys, that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love to hear some of your 2024 predictions down in the comments. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be the first to hear whenever I upload. And just before I sign off, at the moment, I currently have 2 polls open where you can vote for the top 100 K-pop boy group songs of 2023 and the top 100 K-pop girl group songs of 2023. I will link the Google Forms in the pinned comment down below, and they're also on my community tab if you'd like to check them out. All you have to do is vote for your favourite songs of the year, and the top 100 with the most votes will make it into videos I will upload on my channel in January. The poll has only been up for a couple of days so far, and there's already been hundreds of responses, so these videos are going to be super interesting, and I would love you guys to get involved if you can. Okay, this is getting long. I'm so sorry. I'll see you next time. Bye guys!